Hello, one alls, my view, Dr. Stone, chapter 213, Unknown Known. And I've got to say, I am annoyed. I am seriously annoyed. I mean, when I was first reading this chapter, I was so excited to talk about them getting freaking video games. I mean, seriously, when the series first started, Chrome's big scientific power was the ability to change the color of fire, and now he's playing Pac-Man, Galaga, Asteroid, Tetris. Are you freaking kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? I can't even begin to imagine how much this must have blown the minds of every single person from Ishigami Village, and I was so excited to talk about it. But now, instead, I need to focus on the fact that Jen and Yo were just petrified for some reason, and nobody can figure out why. I mean, the big theory I'm seeing a lot right now is basically that putting the Medusa in a vacuum triggers some sort of defense mechanism, which, automatically petrifies everything in the surrounding area. And this is to make sure that the Medusa can never be used on the Y-Man, never be sent to space to be activated on him, and I just don't see it. I just don't see that as being, plausible at all. I mean, for one thing, if you actually send a rocket up to the moon to attack the Y-Man with a Medusa, it wouldn't be in a vacuum. The actual Medusa, the actual payload, would be in an airtight container that actually, has air inside of it. There would be no reason to, expose it to the vacuum of space to activate it. So that just really didn't make a whole lot of sense. Another thing I'm seeing was that the Medusa needs to be activated or automatically activate itself like every 10 to 15 years as a way of keeping it working and to make sure that nobody can, hoard the Medusas and, store them up and use them against their enemies. And while that does make some sense, the big issue with that is the fact that, Soyuz and his family were holding on to that one Medusa for generations, for literally hundreds of years. So, yeah, again, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense either. And as I was trying to figure this out, I couldn't help but notice Sai's conversation with Ryu about the Deep Blue AI and how in its 36th move, instead of attacking with its queen, it moved its white pawn, a maneuver that made absolutely no sense to anybody who was watching at the time, but which was, the start of its big endgame plans. So, since we all kind of assume the Y-Man is a super powerful AI at this point, is it possible the Y-Man also moved its pawn to cause this? A white pawn? And who do we know in the series who has white hair? Good old Ukyo. Okay, admittedly, me theorizing Ukyo is a pawn of the Y-Man might be one of my craziest theories in a very long time, or at least since I theorized that Chelsea's also secretly working for the Y-Man. I know, I have deep trust issues, but for this one, I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, when we see him steal the vault, you can't actually see Ukyo's eyes. They're covered by the shadow of his hat, and that just feels so overwhelmingly ominous and shady, as if Ukyo was doing something shameful or evil here. And, in the last chapter, we actually had a color page and mentioned because it didn't really seem to be all that important. But looking at it now, there's definitely something a little off about it. I mean, it's Kohaku, Senku, and Ukyo. I mean, that's a very weird trio of people. And what's more, Ukyo is to the side, far away from Senku and Kohaku, as if there's some sort of metaphorical distance between them. And what's more, look at his posture. I mean, yes, he's smiling and waving. That's nice, that's fine. But where is his right arm? I mean, first look at it, it might seem like, it's just at his side, but it's not. His right arm is behind his back. He is hiding something. And, this feels like such an unnatural pose to take unless it had some sort of deeper meaning. I think this was foreshadowing Ukyo's betrayal. The fact that Ukyo is hiding something. The fact that Ukyo has always worked for the Y-Man. And if we go into the chapter back before that, when Ryu does that big thing where he says, "Aha, I got it now. The Medusa can actually grant eternal life." Ukyo was in that panel, which even then I thought was such a weird thing to include. It made me even wonder, okay, do they show this intentionally? Because at some point down the road, Ukyo is going to betray them because he wants Medusa to save someone, to do something that Senku doesn't want to use it for? And that may have actually been way more right than I originally imagined. I mean, also there's the fact that Ukyo probably should have already known about that simply because, he has godlike hearing, and I assumed he overheard the conversation between Senku, Chrome, Tsukasa, Zeno, and all of them when they found out the Medusa, can basically grant eternal life in that whole conversation in South America. And yet, in that panel, he seemed just so overwhelmingly surprised, which, really makes me wonder now, was he faking it? Was he just pretending to act surprised because, he wanted to hide the fact that he already knew about it because he works for the Y-Man? And just moving on even beyond that, There's also the fact that if, Ukyo is actually working for the Y-Man, he's the only person in the team who could actually be able to communicate with him because his hearing, is basically godlike. The Y-Man could be sending signals down at low frequency that no one else can pick up, but Ukyo can hear it. Ukyo can understand them and, enact his plan, enact his will because I definitely think there's more of this plan than, oh, let me just activate Medusa and petrify the entire world again. That doesn't really seem like a big, complicated plan. I mean, as Sai said, moving the pawns seemed so insignificant at first, but it was just the first step to a much larger, much grander plan, so maybe this is a distraction, or maybe there's something else. I mean, the activation of the Medusa looks more chaotic than it has in the past, and it even managed to shatter Yo, which... How? I mean, seriously, his head, literally shattered into pieces, even his hair, and that's something we've never really seen before with any statue. Why exactly did Yo take so much damage? I mean, is it possible there are additional commands that can be given to the Medusa, like, Code 10, activate self-destruct in 10 minutes? And that's what we're seeing here. The Medusa exploded chaotically, and that caused Yo's body to shatter more or less. I mean, maybe. It's also possible the Medusa is basically just being used as distraction here to lure Senku and everyone else to the spot so that Ukyo can go destroy the rocket, destroy what they built to the rocket, sink those ships, destroy the computer, do something somewhere that makes it impossible for them to get to the moon because he, doesn't want them to stop the Y-Man. He doesn't want them to defeat the Y-Man. He wants the Y-Man's plans to continue moving forward, whatever they may be. I mean, this would, again, make some sense for Ukyo's character. When we first saw him, his big thing was he didn't want anybody to die ever again. And the Y-Man's plan is more or less assuring that. I mean, yes, if someone, breaks their head or something, they are dead, they will die. But other than that, they're in fairly good shape. They're able to last for, centuries or millennia without really suffering all that much damage, without all that much wear and tear. So could that be Ukyo's plan? He doesn't want people to die, so he wants them all to be petrified, or he wants something? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure, but I'm just so utterly convinced right now that Ukyo is the white pawn of the Y-Man. And heck, I'm right about this, maybe I'm right about Chelsea too. Maybe they're gonna arrest Ukyo, put him in a jail cell, and then Chelsea will go visit him, and she'll say, what did the master tell us to do this time? Oh god, I really hope that's true. I mean, much I freaking love Chelsea as a character, if it turns out she's actually secretly a spy for the Y-Man, there's at least one person in the comments who promised to eat their hat, and I really want to see that. Okay, so that's my insane conspiracy theory about Ukyo. Let's go back to the start of the chapter, though, where we see that they've gotten their hydroelectric plant up and running. Yay! In order to run it, they need a whole bunch more people, and in order to win over the people, they use Francois Sushi and Jen, the genius, brilliant storyteller, as he uses puppets, explosions, and drawings to win over the hearts and minds of the people, convincing them that, hey, we're the good guys, you should help us try to get to the moon to stop the Y-Man so he doesn't, do this whole thing all over again. Yay! And it seems to be working. It really seems to be working. I mean, Jen is a, bona fide, gifted storyteller. His primary power is winning people over, and I'm so excited to see what his role will be in, the epilogue of the series. I kind of feel like he's going to be, the president of the world, the ambassador to alien planets, something that, really makes use of all his skills more than just, rolling up batteries or doing manual labor like he's done for most of the series. But even this isn't really enough entertainment to keep the masses satisfied, so Sai wonders, it'd really be nice if we get some sort of, video games or TV something here, some sort of way to keep people happy. That'd be just so amazing. And Ryu is of a similar mind with slightly different intentions, as he wants to basically create Google and broadcast TV as a way to essentially control the masses, to essentially brainwash everyone into believing his propaganda that he's the best, he's the greatest, and they should all do whatever he says, which, is just a little bit of a dictator-like attitude. Yeah. I'm actually rather terrified to see what exactly Ryu ends up doing in the epilogue of the series. He might actually end up being the president of Earth. Oh, that'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun to see. And then to satisfy the need to keep everyone entertained, Senku builds a television. Yay! The only problem is there are no channels because nobody's broadcasting right now. Oops. Though obviously the actual purpose of this monitor was to work alongside, the giant computer they had shipped in from North America. Yay! The SAL 9000, which, is also just a little bit unnerving. I mean, that's named after, Hal, the rogue AI from, what was it, Space Odyssey? So, yeah, that's like they're really, really trying to hint at, okay, the Y-Man is a incredibly powerful, incredibly advanced artificial intelligence. I mean, like I said before, that is a theory I think a lot of us have settled on, and the fact they just keep referencing, super advanced AI again and again and again this series just really, really makes it feel like, that's the route they're going with, or this is all just a giant red herring, and they are just loving to mess with our expectations. They're just loving to mess with our minds like this. Honestly, given the series, either possibility has a pretty good likelihood of being true. And now they have all the parts of the computer put together, according to Sai, it's at the same power as the NES, which I find rather interesting because that's not an NES in the corner, that's a Famicom, so did somebody get their wires crossed there? I mean, is Boichi just not a big gamer, so he doesn't know the difference? I'm actually rather curious about that. But either way, we get to see this computer in all its massive, insane glory, and God above, this thing is huge. This thing is seriously, seriously huge. And again, let's not forget, this giant room-sized computer is only on par with an NES, a gaming device that was like a foot long and half a foot wide. Wow, they really need to get some transistors. They really, really need to get some transistors so they can start making smaller computers. I mean, seriously, how much harder would it have been to make transistors? I mean, I know people have talked about this in the comment section. Obviously, it would have taken a very, very long time, but this thing is just so overwhelmingly massive, and the manpower needed to put it together, plus the fact that, if, any of the magnetic donuts or wires break, they're going to need to spend a very, very long time actually tracing the problem back to its source. I think it might have actually just been faster for them to develop transistors, but either way, also the fact that it has to, get air and water pumped into it to keep it from overheating, because, yeah, this thing must be producing a frankly ridiculous amount of heat. Honestly, I'm kind of amazed they can even, stand so close to it without sweating. But anyway, thanks to Sai and all the hard work he's done ever since they first woke him up in India, they're able to get games running very, very quickly. And like I said before, they have Tetris, Pac-Man, Galaga. And honestly, what really surprised me, what really amazes me here, is probably the graphics of these games. I know you're probably looking at the screen right now and saying, Just King, those are very, very simple graphics. And, well, yes, they certainly are. Let's not forget, these graphics had to be designed by punch cards. And while that might be simple enough to make, cubes and the like, they have graphics. I mean, simplified graphics, yes, but just making these clouds in the background of the Tetris game using punch cards is an amount of effort I literally cannot put into words. Designing, the curves around it like that, I mean, that just, oh my God, that sounds like a nightmare. That honestly sounds like a nightmare to me. And yes, that is the mindset of a programmer. Little things truly, truly terrify us, because we know how absolutely terrifying they'd be to actually implement. And speaking of being implemented, I'm really, really hoping that we actually get to this point in the anime. The studio is actually going to, hire real game developers to turn these games into reality. I mean, Pac-Man, Tetris, Galaga, those aren't really all that complex to actually program. I programmed most of those by myself at one point or another, or at least simplified versions of them, so it certainly wouldn't be, all that costly to do, and it should be so, so amazing to actually play these games. To actually play the games designed by Sai that the people in the Stone Age are playing in the series. I just think that'd be so, so cool. Though I will say I'm a little bit disappointed that with the Pac-Man game they created, they have Senku being the Pac-Man. Why not Suka? She is, so utterly, utterly adorable, and her sprite would look so much cooler in this game. Or Chrome, his big skill is managing to harvest materials, and that's what, Pac-Man is all about. Finding the materials, finding the good stuff hidden all throughout the world. I guess, Senku is the main character, so obviously they had to use him as a sprite, but still, a little bit disappointing right there. And while I was certainly impressed by the clouds, I also can't ignore the fact that Sai built a chess-playing AI on punch cards that is smart enough to beat Ryu, that's smart enough to defeat a very skilled chess player. I mean, that is, oh my God, that is terrifying. That is so, so terrifying. And I can't even begin to imagine the amount of work that would have to actually gone into doing that. Oh my God, that's, wow, Sai, you really, really managed to impress me a whole bunch this chapter. And then Yo and Jen get petrified again. And I am just seriously at a loss for what comes next. I mean, there's just so many possibilities right now. I mean, first off, how big is this blast going to be? Is it going to cover all of Ishigami Village? Is it going to cover the entire planet? I mean, I feel like Senku must have set up some sort of, emergency preparedness, emergency vital fluid system somehow that activates, when everyone else gets petrified so we can wake up again, wake up everyone else, and they can, then go wake up the entire planet again. I mean, that would make a lot of sense, but at the same time, I just feel like that would cost them so much time having to go back, across the entire planet all over again to wake up everyone. I mean, that'd be a big delay, but it'd be more of an annoyance than anything else. So could this blast just, be in the immediate area? I mean, if, the Medusa being exposed to vacuum is actually what caused this, maybe they won't actually be able to take it up to space, or maybe the Medusa, actually did explode when it, activated this time for some reason. And if so, Senku's gonna be a loss because he realizes, oh no, now I can't go to the moon because I was gonna petrify myself when I got there, and now I won't have a way back, so I'll just die on the moon. I mean, the Medusa breaking or being unusable in space would make a lot of sense because that would be a great moment for Konosuba just to pop in and say, hey, Senku, guess what? We've been learning rocket science for the last, 6-7 months, and we figured out how to build a return rocket to bring you back home. Yay! I mean, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure about that. And if Ukyo is in fact the white pawn of the Y-Man, what does that mean for him moving forward? I mean, will he reveal his evil intentions? Will be a whole manhunt to figure out which of them is actually evil, which of them is secretly working for the Y-Man, or will he make another move? Like I said before, I don't think just, activating Medusa was the entirety of his plan. Like Sai said, that was just the first step to a much larger, much grander plan. So this might have been an abstraction. This might have been done to destroy the Medusa. This might have been done for any number of reasons. I think this was just the first step in the Y-Man's true goal, his true plan, whatever that might be. But please, let me know down below. What's going to happen next? Who's Ukyo's spy? Was the Medusa destroyed? Why did Yo basically explode like that? And why is Jen okay? I mean, seriously, they're standing right next to another, but Yo just shattered while Jen is absolutely fine. I mean, did Yo just, fall on the ground? But even if he did, I don't think that would be enough to, actually make him shatter like that. It was actually even said back on Treasure Island that the thinner parts are sturdier than the thicker parts, so his hair definitely shouldn't have broken in the way it did. I know I keep going back to the hair, but it's really, really weird. But please, let me know all down below. Be sure to like and subscribe to the next video. And until then, peace!